I kid you not, I plug in my light to start recording and I see it's not working. Then I turn around and I see the plug is halfway out. Like, what? Then I try to, like, after fixing it, I'm trying to lower the brightness. And like, I'm using the control that I used for years to lower the brightness. And it just completely does opposite effect of increasing the brightness. Anyways, so you're either somebody who doesn't believe in God and you're like, I don't believe in any paranormal activity, or you're someone who believes in God and you believe that top people in your religion hundreds of years ago they did some spells and some contracts to keep paranormal activity away from the earth. Either way, I'm sure if you live long enough, you have some stories that you could never explain. It was very hard for me to come in front of the camera and talk about this experience in my life. Not really because it's something that I could never explain, mostly because of the thing that we did, because it's illegal. And if I were to get caught, I would have been in prison now. It was many years ago, where I was around 15 or 16 years old. I had a friend that we were best friends ever. So one night it was like 2 a.m. Very dark and like chilly night. Me and my best friend used to do everything together, like every day. We were so close that we didn't have any secrets in between us. And like I remember I bought a very expensive laptop. Never let anyone play on it or touch it. I was a gamer, I'm still a gamer. So one day he's like, can I have your laptop for some time? I was like, okay, take it. Even though I was like addicted gamer, I wasn't even missing my laptop because I know my best friend has it. So we were that close together. So this night that this thing that I'm about to talk about that happened, it was around 2 a.m. and I was on my bed. And I couldn't sleep for some reason, I don't know why. And there was something inside me that I was like, I really want to get out right now and have fun. Despite the fact that I was very scared of my parents, especially my mom. I know in usually like normal families, you're scared of your father. I was very scared of my mom back in those days. So I pick up my phone and I call my friend and I say like, hey, and he's like, hey, it's 2 a.m. What do you mean? And I'm like, do you want to get out? He pauses for a second. I was like, now? Are you kidding me? It's 2 a.m. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And he's like, fuck, I don't know. Okay. So we, both of us, sneak out without anyone knowing. Like our parents were sleeping. They're gonna go to work tomorrow. So I pick up my mom's keys and stealthily get out of the building. Then I drive to which was like 3 streets away from us. Not very far, like 2 minutes and I'm there. Anyway, he comes out, we get in the car, and we go to this very famous place in our city. It's like there's a Luna Park, and there's like a fake lake, and like paintball places, and like different areas to have fun, and it's like a parkish area for people to just like, hang around, walk, do sports at morning. Anyway, like there's so many things there. And also because it was very close to our house. So we go there. So we go around this fake lake and we like walk around, talk. There was like one guy there. That entire night we only saw one person, and it was a cleaning person that was like cleaning the road around the lake, this artificial lake. So we walk, talk, have fun. It was around like I think 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning that we finally walk all the way up to this paintball. There was this closed paintball location that finally we arrived in front of it. It was closed for at least like 6 months or so. I don't know why they closed. I always felt like there's enough people going in there that there's no reason to close that place. But it was closed anyway. If I were to give a description of how this place is, there's a road and on the right side of it is the paintball location. There's this yard that you play, and behind it there was a container. Like there was this kind of T or L shaped container that they used to like give the guns and ammunition from there to you, or the gear that you put on you. We walk right in front of this container. I take my keys out and I look into my friend's eyes, and he looks at me. I put the key in. I rotate the key, and the door just goes. And we both look at each other's face like, oh my god, there's no way this key opened this door this easily. It was like that key was made for that door. That was how easily it opened that door. So in shock, we're like, do we go in there? Do we not go in there? I just opened the door and we both walk in that place. It was one of the most amazing when you're like a young person and you love guns and video games. There were so many beautiful paintball guns still in there. So we both walk in and pick up the paintball guns one by one. I show him some paintball guns. He shows me some. Like I pick one paintball gun and I'm like, look how beautiful this is. It's like made out of glass. So we walk inside this container. There was a curtain to like block this L-shaped container. We pushed the curtains away. We walked in and we were looking to the paintball guns. All of a sudden, we hear like, it's like somebody closed the door. And we both like, he looks at me. We're both in shock that no way somebody just walked here right now. And all we're thinking is that we're busted, right? Somebody walked in and we're illegally in somebody's property. Then we hear like, tuck, 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 tuck. Somebody walks, comes all the way in front of the curtains that we just passed, stops there. For some reason, I don't know why my friend did this. Like if that was a person, this was the most non-logical thing that he could have done. Like he does this to me, slowly walks in front of the curtain, and all of a sudden opens it like a horror movie. And there's no one there. He looks at me, I look at him, and we're both in shock that like what happened. I ask him, I say, didn't you hear somebody just walk here? And he's like, yeah, I heard. Like it's like we both were in shock that we couldn't really understand at the time just what happened, because we both heard the door shutting and both of us heard somebody walking there, and it came as close as to the curtain and he stopped. So there was no explanation as to like what that was. But at the moment that you never really think about anything paranormal, for us the only concern really was the fact that we were illegally inside somebody's property. So we ran away in shock. We immediately go back to our homes. I take him to his home and I go back to my home. We didn't really even talk about it in the way on the car, inside the car. So this next thing that happened, I'm not sure if it's like coincidence or like is it related. I have no idea. It was the next day when I was upstairs in my room, and I hear my mom yelling from downstairs saying like, come here, I need help. She had like a giant gash in her hand that she cut it while like cutting vegetables. I take her to hospital and they put some stitches on it. What was weird is that the next day I talked to my friend, and finally we opened up about it and we talked about like what just happened. Did you not hear somebody walk in that container with us? And he was like, yeah, I did, and that's why I pulled the curtain. I'm like, what that could be? I don't understand. Somebody walked there, we heard it. There was nobody outside, there was nobody inside. Like, how do you explain what just happened? So anyway, I say like, oh, by the way, I took my mom to the hospital. She cut her hand. And he's like, oh my god, no way. And I say like, what happened? He said same thing happened to my mom. They didn't take her to hospital. Her wound wasn't as bad. And he had to help her mother to bandage her arm. It was only a few days later until his father realized that we together drank some alcoholic beverages together, and So next day in 7 or 8 a.m. in the morning, he calls my mother and starts threatening us that he's going to report us. And at the time we used to like live in a very religious country, that if we were to get reported for drinking alcohol, we would have like been like severely punished. And basically he threatened that I would never see his son again. And since that day I've never seen my best friend again. So yeah, this was something that happened that still to this day I could not explain what just happened. It was clear as day, the things that we heard, the footstep that we heard, somebody coming in. It's not like outside walking is different than inside walking in a container. Like if that was somebody outside the container walking around us, we would have known. Like, first of all, you don't even hear that well inside. And second, like we heard that it came right in front of us and stood behind the curtains. So it was always a mystery in my life that, as a non-believer to these things, I I could never explain what just happened. So anyways, that was the story. I have few more stories that if you guys are interested, that I could talk about them. There are a lot of channels that are about horror stories, but those stories are mostly stories that people came with it instead of true experiences told by the person that they lived those moments. So I want to make this channel about people who actually either came in front of the camera or at least we hear their voice. Because when you hear in a story, if it's actually told by the person that lived it, you could kinda tell if they're lying or not. Because I would rather a story to be told by the person that it lived it. Because as somebody who's listening to this story, it's easier to tell if that person is lying or not. Because if it's their story and it's not something that they heard it, it's hard to lie about those situations, and you hear in their voice if they're honest about it or not. So if you can't really come in front of a camera or send me a voice, at least it's okay, don't worry about it. You could still send me the story and I would read them, and if the story makes sense, why not, I would share it. But I would appreciate it if you guys could contact me through either TonyViperBox@gmail or send me a friend request or message from Discord. Or at the very least, you could comment down below this video and share your story, and I'll make sure to share it on the next video. Thanks for listening to my story, and I see you on the next one.